PowerPoint is a no-no at Amazon. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. And we do use the T, so you don't confuse him with the mathematician.
The crazy mathematician who won a Nobel Prize, but still.
Is it the crazy one? Is it the crazy mathematician?
Yeah, John Nash, he had some issues, but he was smart. He won a Nobel.
Wow. Find out all about us at focusgroupradio.com. And welcome to our friends in Palm Springs at the iHub Network. I know you're joining us as well. Again, all of our social media is also branded Focus Group Radio. And later on in the show, we did the tease about PowerPoint. In our Shop Talk segment, we're going to be talking about Jeff Bezos at Amazon, who has banned PowerPoint. Any of you who do know our show know that John hates PowerPoint, so we're sure to have a spirited discussion about PowerPoint. I always tell John it's a necessary evil. John hates it, but we use it, and John doesn't like it. And but we go back and forth with it. And so we'll discuss that later in the show, as well as our business birthday. And we've heard from a few of you that you don't like having the business birthday at the end because you think we rush it. So we're going to put it before Shop Talk again after the break. After
what a confusing roadmap for the listeners. So the way we do this is Tim and I are going to catch up a little bit. We're going to have our Caught Our Eye segment, which is something that actually comes from Tim's grandmother, right? You used to have your grandmother used to say you have to bring something to the dinner table, right? What caught your eye?
Well, she would read the paper, and then you'd have to talk about it, yeah.
The newspaper. And then we talk about our sponsor here on the show, Deep Discount, take a break, and we're going to have the business birthday, the only show in the universe that does that, followed by the article that Tim talked about with Jeff Bezos banning PowerPoint. He's a friend of mine, obviously. So here we are in March already, the Ides of March, right?
Yeah,
What's the old saying? March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb, right?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. Well, weather-wise, we'll have to see, right?
Today's not much of a lion. I have a public service announcement, which I'm very irritated about. So over the weekend, I was doing some, I guess, early spring cleaning or spring cleaning. You know, I love candles. And I actually have decided, so I bought these electric candles, and so at Christmas time, my family always asked me what they can get me, and I would say candles. But instead of doing the regular lighted candles, sometimes with the scented ones, I said, get me these battery candles. So the Luminaire ones with the little thing that flickers.
Little
and
flame.
So right, and there's other ones. Costco does them. Many of these big warehouse places do them. So I got all these great candles. I loaded them all up here at my house in PA, and I mistakenly, and this is my public service announcement, I love these lighted candles. They have the little remote, and they give a nice little hue around the room. Do you know what I did? First of all, I've not really used these things, but do you know what I did wrong?
Did you store them with the batteries or something, and they corroded, or?
Well, you're getting close. So that's not the bad part. I think the bad part is so these great, and these Luminaire, they're not cheap. I mean, they're an expensive item. I went and cheaped out and bought dollar store batteries. And so the dollar store batteries, which last about 30 seconds, obviously did corrode. So I get back. I thought, you know what? I'm going to light these candles. I'm going to set a mood around the house. I'm going to put these candles all around. I'm going to have my little remote. Because, I had the ghost in the house, right?
Correct.
So I thought I'm going to light these candles. Linda Lawrence says to spray the vibe spray. I'm going to get rid of this ghost. I light these candles. None of the candles work. I thought, I haven't used any of these candles. I've had them all loaded up with batteries since late summer. I haven't used them. What could be wrong? I thought, it's the cheap batteries. I opened them all up. There's acid and everything. These batteries all imploded. But not only that, they ate all the innards out.
Yeah.
Of these candles. All the little springy things and the little nipple.
Yeah.
So
the contacts are corroded out. Yeah.
I'm trying to repair it. I thought, should I go buy a soldering kit? Matt starts laughing at me and Richard, and they're like, really? They're like, you've got to throw them away. I said, I've never used them. I'm upset about this. They're like, throw them away. You can't use them now. So the acid actually ate all the metal
Yeah.
connectors. Have you ever seen that before?
It happens. So I've had it happen. So this is the
So
examples.
don't buy cheap batteries was my PSA, but apparently this is the thing.
Hey, even if you have good batteries. So I have this,
Really?
in some of our shows, people have noticed that behind me, there's this, what looks like a model of the Enterprise on a shelf. Well, it is. It's a toy. And the toy actually is the Wrath of Khan edition of the Enterprise, which means if you push a button, it says things from the movie. I had 3 AAA batteries in there from when it was bought. And I never play with it. It just sits on a shelf. But one day I push the button, nothing happens. I thought, oh, the batteries are dead. I unscrew this little panel, and just like your candles, and these are like Duracells or something. Thankfully, unlike the cheap batteries, they only corroded at the very end point. So Bob says, take a nail file. I was able to file off some of the stuff that forms on the contacts, put a new set in, they work fine. But other toys that I've had or little things that require batteries, if they're left too long, Richard's not kidding you. They're garbage unless you could get that stuff off the contact point.
Well, see, I didn't think about the contact point, but and some of them, the little spring thing dissolved.
Ate it away.
It ate the spring.
Mm-hmm. Ate it away.
And you can't do anything there.
No.
I am so disappointed. I was so upset to throw those away. It was like throwing money down the drain. I was so upset. I thought, and I dragged them. I showed them to Matt. I said, "Is there anything to do with these?" He just looked at me. He said, "No, throw them away."
Matt should be on the show. He should be on the show Hoarders. He'd be one of the people they hired to come in, and he would say, all of it's going out to the truck. Just all going out to the truck.
Well, because I was like, do you think I should get a soldering kit? Could I solder a little spring?
No. They're gone. Sadly, you try to rescue a couple of them, see what you can do. But if you leave any of that acid remains on the contacts, the new batteries will start to corrode faster as well.
Well, I did throw them away, and they were taken away this week. So I was sick over it. I'm just sick of it.
All right.
So yeah. So that was my PSA, but I blame it on the cheap batteries.
You blamed it correctly. That's a big Amazon review thing with some of these batteries. People will say, "Do not buy these. They go bad. They'll ruin your devices." What can you do, right?
So I went to Costco. So Costco was having batteries on sale for the month of February.
The Kirkland batteries.
I did buy batteries there, but you go to the dollar store and they'll have 20 batteries for $1.
Yeah, I know. But you got
the double A's or something. I'm thinking, well, okay, put them in the clocks, but then
don't trust it. Don't trust it.
Chinese batteries, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Is that where they're coming from?
Who knows? I don't even question country of origin. I just know that they're going to damage my electronics and the things I love. So I avoid the cheap ones.
I'm so upset. Anyway, what anything else with you? Did you have any revelations going on or anything?
No,
exciting?
I'm sharing a little thing for the before we do shop talk. It's a business thing, but I'm sharing that for later. So.
Going to be later. Okay.
Yeah.
So what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Okay, I've had a string of these, and you appreciate these as well. It's the flea market find that makes you a millionaire. Tim and I want to find Declaration of Independence behind some painting or something. So for me, I find this article, and it's about this little Chinese bowl was found, Tim, in Connecticut. So you'll appreciate that. Headline reads, Chinese bowl bought for $35 at yard sale could make $500,000 at auction. I know. A small floral bowl bought at a yard sale in Connecticut for just $35 has been identified as an exceptionally rare 15th century Chinese antique. The intricate blue and white artifact, which features motifs of lotus, peony, chrysanthemum, and pomegranate blossoms, was originally commissioned by China's imperial court during the Ming dynasty. Now, you hear the word Ming, and suddenly I say cha-ching. It is now expected to sell for up to $500,000 at Sotheby's in New York. The discovery was made last year in New Haven, Connecticut. While Sotheby's is not disclosing the owner's identity, the head of its Chinese art department, Angela McAteer, revealed in a phone interview that the man didn't haggle over the $35 asking price. Shortly after making the purchase, though, he sent photographs of the bowl to auction specialists who identified it as an item of historical significance. We instinctively had a very, very good feeling about it. So this goes back to the Ming Dynasty, probably 1403 to 1424. It is known as a lotus bowl due to its resemblance of the lotus bud, and they estimate that it will bring in $500,000 or more, nearly 14,000 times the amount of the purchase cost of $35. Now, get this. It's only a 6-inch diameter bowl, but it's highly detailed and very beautiful. The auction takes place actually in about a week or so, a week and a half, March 17th. It's part of Sotheby's Asia Week. And there you go. So they didn't reveal the identity of the guy, but it was found in the New Haven area. I suspect that might have been like, New Haven proper, but
it's probably done at the Nash House yard sale. It's probably something wrong with it. Three things on this for me.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're watching the video, if you look at it, it looks like it's something you get at Pier 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, the guy obviously knew what he had, because if you're at a yard sale, you're going to spend $35 on a little bowl like that. You expect to spend $1. So he obviously knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
Don't
I
you think?
I do
If you
think he
didn't
did.
haggle over it, because you'd say, would you take 5?
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what he had there, don't you think?
I think he did. And in fact, the woman from Sotheby's said that if you look at some of these Asian porcelain pieces, if you notice a certain simplicity to the design or a smoothness of the glazing, like there's a couple of tells that someone who collects this or knows it would look for and pick it up on the spot, even down to how some of the work was done with the brushes and stuff on the actual before they did the glaze, when they would paint the design on. I don't know that stuff very well, but clearly, as you said, Tim, he picks it up. He sends some photos to some auction houses. He knew it. He knew he had something. Let's put it that way. I don't know if he knew he had a $500,000 Ming Dynasty bowl.
That was like that friend of ours from the agency, that story where they went down south to the thrift store. People we know, Sam and his wife, and bought the $125 painting at the thrift store and haggled. I don't know if we should get it. Goes to Manhattan. She goes to one of these art sales on where the Intrepid is there. What is that? The docks out there when they do the art show. I don't even know what
they were at the
called.
Piers. They call it the Piers.
The Piers.
Yeah, the Piers show. I love those antique shows when they had those.
She puts $5,000 on it. A friend of hers from the Metropolitan Museum of Art comes by and goes, I think you might have something here. I'd put that away, because she thought, I'll just throw $5,000 on and see if somebody buys it. She puts it away. 3 years later, after all this testing, finds out it was at a Jasper Johns or something, famous. Anyway, they end up selling it for, $2.3 million. And somebody from Microsoft bought it.
My God.
One of the big executives. And they were shaking. I remember the time the money was transferred into his account. He said he was shaky. He's never seen that much money in his life.
Yeah, it's something.
And it changed their life. And he remembers him saying, "Do you really want? We really don't have the $125 to spend on this." That when they were at the store, going through. So, but
it's
good
Jasper
for them.
Johns. There you go. Okay, I'll always keep an eye out for that stuff. So, what caught your eye?
So mine was I saw this, and this was in automotive news, but it's been in a lot of the other business press as well. So the Chuck Hoskin, or Hoskin Jr., Chuck Hoskin, he's the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. He wants Jeep to stop using the tribe's name on all the SUVs that Chrysler Jeep is using. So it says Chief of Cherokee Nation wants Jeep to stop using the tribe's name on the SUVs. So the Jeep Cherokee, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, they want to have the company stop using the Cherokee name, which they've been using for over 45 years. Currently, it's on 2 of the cars. It's on the Grand Cherokee, and it's on the regular Cherokee, which is the 3rd best-selling model in the car brand's lineup. They said they started using it more than 45 years ago, and the Cherokee Nation, Mr. Hoskins says it's time that they stop using the identity, similar to what they've done with mascots and what they've done with sports teams. And he wants them to stop doing it. He's had dialogue now with Jeep. He says it's been productive, but he doesn't think that they're going to stop doing it immediately. But he was encouraged by the conversation and the respect he felt and the dialogue that he had with the people from Jeep, but wants to continue having discussion and have them understand why it's important for them to not use the name. Jeep had said that they had carefully chosen and nurtured the brand name Cherokee over the years, and they did it to honor and celebrate Native American people for their nobility, prowess, and pride. And obviously, it was done. It was done to honor the Cherokee Nation and their culture and their history. and it wasn't done out of any disrespect. And so then they asked on CNBC, they had asked Hoskins if they would consider having, would the Cherokee Nation take any royalties or donations for use of the name? And he said he felt that was problematic. He said any financial incentives or things of that nature don't remedy the underlying problem, which he said is that it doesn't help in terms of stopping the stereotypes, ethnic stereotypes and caricatures that come along with using those names. And then the story went into how this has been happening with the changing of names, such as Land O'Lakes has removed the Native American imagery on their packaging, the butter. Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, the Cleveland Indians are removing the imagery, the Washington Redskins. And then it went into whether the Indian motorcycle brand is going to have to change their name, but there's still discussion on that. So this is something that's been talked about for a while. They said that Jeep had stopped discontinued the name for a while in 2002, and then brought it back in 2013. Did not ask Cherokee Nation about it. In the meantime, a number of schools had stopped using the Cherokee name and the mascot, and had actually talked with the Cherokee Nation about it, and had very good dialogue, and they were very happy with the results. But they said the car brand never did, and they just went and put the Cherokee name back on. So I don't know how I feel about it. There was some discussion. Even Kia just recently brought out the product, the Telluride, which is different because that's a city name.
Town name.
Yeah. But there was some discussion of should the city of Telluride go after Kia and get money or get revenue for using the name Telluride because they profited over the name? Would there be royalties or would there be money for use of the name? I don't know legally if that's possible or not, but
and I don't know
what's your thought on the Cherokee thing with.
I'm not even sure
Jeep?
how they're going to get the car company to not use that badge name any longer. There's a lot of investment that they've made in the name Cherokee,
Right.
And I do understand the nation wanting to have a dialogue about that, considering that we're looking at all these things and how we've appropriated the stuff. But as long as there's a positive dialogue, I guess it's good. I just can't imagine Jeep getting rid of the Cherokee label. It's unless they just do a whole new different thing.
You think it'll stay?
For a while, yeah. But seriously, they're having serious discussions, so maybe it's not going to be forever.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to figure out, whether it will stay or not. So stay tuned for that. So, hey, many of you know that Deep Discount's been a partner of ours here at the Focus Group for quite a while. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away. There's plenty of sales. There's plenty of sales going on. So, Mr. Nash, what did you pick this week?
Well, it's a March site-wide sale. Everything's on sale, which is one of our favorite times to be dealing with Deep Discount because we can get anything we want. If it's records, books, tapes, really, literally LPs. I went for something that my mom loves, I love, and I'm going to do a little math for you folks here. So I want to get the Rockford Files, the complete series. It's 22 discs spanning, I believe, 6 seasons. I did the math here for all of us, and what this means is for the price of the discs, right? So you got 22 discs, 120 episodes. It's $37.94. I think you're looking at maybe 30 cents an episode, something like that. But I love the Rockford Files. I love James Garner. It was a show I used to watch with my mom when it was on way back in the day. So I'm going to go with the Rockford Files complete season because I think it's a great price and it's so inexpensive for the whole 6 seasons.
The Rockford Files.
Gosh,
yeah. That's a great one.
Anyway.
I picked one that actually was just released within the last 2 weeks. It's John Hughes' The 5 Movie Collection. It was released on the end of February. And of course, anyone knows that I'm such an 80s baby with the John Hughes movies. This 5-disc set includes Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and She's Having a Baby. I've never seen Some Kind of Wonderful. Have you?
She's Having a Baby and Some Kind of Wonderful are kind of two outliers to me, so I haven't seen either of them.
I haven't either. And just one quick thing about Some Kind of Wonderful. Apparently, John Hughes was very upset about the ending of Pretty in Pink, and that's why Some Kind of Wonderful exists. He hated the ending of Pretty in Pink. He had a fight with the director. He didn't like the ending. He didn't want the ending to be the way it was. So Some Kind of Wonderful was the ending that he wanted for Pretty in Pink, and that's why Some Kind of Wonderful happened.
That is so fascinating. And I sent Tim a text about a week and a half ago. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was on TV, and we happened to catch the scene at the parade in downtown Chicago. Knowing the background of how the movie was made and how they randomly captured people dancing on scaffoldings and how they had this crowd-sourced kind of extras thing, it would have been a fun afternoon to have been in that scene, I think.
We could have been Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh,
John.
Easily.
They could have done a remake of that
totally.
in high school,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
So what is the new release this week?
New release is a documentary film, special interest documentary biography, and it's called Zappa. And with unfettered access, how does this say here? Let me read it to you. With unfettered access to the Zappa vault and all its archival footage, Zappa explores the private life behind the mammoth musical career that never shied away from the political turbulence of its time. How true. Alex Winter, I guess he's the director, Assembly features appearances by Frank's widow, Gail Zappa, and several of Frank's musical collaborators, including Mike Keneally, Ian Underwood, Steve Vaj, Pamela Despares, and Bunk Gardner. So I love some of these behind-the-scene music things because Zappa, while I was never a huge fan, you can't deny that he was quite influential, right?
Right. Yeah, these sort of things are always the story behind the story, which is usually more fascinating, right?
Oh, totally. And that's what I love about it. So just to recap for everybody here, it's the March site-wide sale, and let me click that. And I picked the Rockford Files, the complete series. You could pick it up for $37.94 on DVD, 22 discs. I think it's about 32 cents an episode. I don't know why I did that. Tim picked John Hughes, 5-movie collection. You can never go wrong with a John Hughes movie. At least I say that, and so does Tim. And the release this week is Zappa, and it's a biopic, and it's about Frank Zappa. So I would pick that up. And we want to thank Deep Discount for being with us on the Focus Group. Go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark, and start your shopping journey. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have the business birthday coming up, and we also have shop talk. So stay with us, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. The Focus Group, an entertaining look at the outside of business. For your convenience, listen anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow, and on anything. Got it? Head over to focusgroupradio.com and pick your poison. We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. We're on now more than I Love Lucy. Now that they've taken her off in a lot of places, you can find us pretty much anywhere by heading over to focusgroupradio.com, and you can find us anytime, anyplace, anywhere, right, John?
You are correct. So,
yes,
as we said before going to break, we have the business birthday coming up in a moment, and then we have Shop Talk, which is an article about how Jeff Bezos has basically banned the use of PowerPoint in meetings there at Amazon, and we have some feelings about that. But before we get those things, so a lot of you may own your own companies, and in many cases you're either an LLC or a sub S or maybe even a C corp. Well, depending on the state you live in, and I think it's pretty much every state, most businesses file something called a biennial statement. It's just a form saying you're still in business, you confirm your mailing address. Usually it's done by email, and it's about $9. So I went to the mailbox on Saturday, and I got this rather official-looking document, and it says your 2021 biannual statement instruction form is due soon. Very, very official, barcodes everywhere, it's all this stuff, and I looked down, and it's like, oh, you're going to do this, and it's going to cost you $100.
What?
You're filing your biannual statement. It was $100. So I went up to my room, and I called up my email, and I looked through I did a search for New York State, and I found the requests for biannual statements that you like 2017, 2015, 2019. And I read it, and it's like, please, you can do this online or do it by mail, but it's going to cost $9. I thought, then I finally read the small print here. I mean, it's small. And this company called CPS is not a government agency and does not have a contract with any governmental agency to provide this service. So basically what they do is a month before your biennial statement is due, they send you something that looks official. And then you think, well, I'll file it this way. They file it for you for $9. They make 91.
So how did they get your
public record? You could go to any state of state department and get a list of active corporations. It's a public record. Isn't that something?
So their hope is they send out
that you don't think about it. You think it's an official state form. You write the check or you do your credit card. But it's so well timed because it's coming exactly a month before our biennial statement is due.
Wow. So I guess you could have just done that and said, "Oh, it's already. I already did that already," and then you just wow.
They'll file it for you, but you're going to spend more money than you have to.
That reminds me of that company that used to send in dummy invoices all the time when for advertising spend by some made-up magazine or newspaper. And I remember me going through the invoices. I was like, "What is this magazine?" And they probably sent it to 15, 20,000 companies across, and if 1,000 of them pay the $500, they're doing pretty good.
That's exactly what I thought. If you had, I don't know how many companies are operating as LLCs. There's a lot. People do a lot of LLCs. If you had just 100 of these do it, and or 500, you're making money, right? I mean, it costs them to print it and mail it, but it's a service. They're providing a service, but when you read the fine print, you realize I can save a lot on that service and just do the $9.
And it can't be fraud because, as you said, it's there. You didn't read the fine print, right?
Another example of this is Tim and I needed copies of our articles of incorporation or origination, which, some years in the mist of time, somehow these 3 pieces of paper went somewhere they're not supposed to be, or they ended up in a folder, but you could request a copy. I went online trying to get an expedited copy. It was $150, $200. If you just did it through the Department of State in your home state, $10. And it came 5 days later in the mail. So
it's a racket.
Yeah.
We need a racket now.
We need a racket.
Jeez. All right. So you want to do the business birthday?
You bet.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
He just missed Black History Month, but we can still say he's part of Black History Month. Born March 4th, Garrett Augustus Morgan Sr. Now, there's some discussion, March 3rd or March 4th. So, a lot of times people born in the 1800s, the dates are always fuzzy. And many times when I do a lot of these birthdays, sometimes the dates are always fuzzy, and some people correct us. So I'm going to let you know. Some documents say the 3rd, some say the 4th. So,
okay,
the week of,
you're absolved.
Early March. Died in 1963, July 27th, at 86 years old. Born in Kentucky and moved to Cincinnati in search of work, Garrett Augustus Morgan Sr., an African-American inventor, businessman, and community leader. His most notable inventions were the 3-position traffic signal.
You mean red, gold, green, right?
Red, gold, green, and a smoke hood, the predecessor to the gas mask. And he also discovered and developed a chemical hair processing formula for straightening hair solution while he was working and doing some work at a sewing machine repair shop. And so he created this hair care product for people for straightening their hair for the African-American community. He had spent his teenage years working as a handyman in Cincinnati, so he had left home in Kentucky, went to Cincinnati, and he began working at a sewing machine repair shop. And he had sparked interest in learning how to fix things. And so the first invention he did while working there, which I love this because I remember my mom had a sewing machine. He's the guy who invented the zigzag attachment for sewing machines that would zigzag. So when they would sew, he invented the zigzag attachment. And then they said 1 year later, he was very conscious of his heritage. So he helped start what they called the Cleveland Association of Colored Men in 1908, which later merged with the NAACP, which he was a national leader for years and part of, and held leadership positions. While he was working in sewing machines, he also experimented with a liquid that gave sewing machine needles a high polish that prevented the needle from burning fabric. I didn't realize that the needles burned fabric as it sewed.
I guess it's the speed of which the needle was moving, and if friction would get it hot, right? So this coating prevented it from getting overheated, and thus fabric goes up.
Right, and that's the liquid he made into cream, which launched the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company that he marketed along with black hair dye. And he also invented a curved tooth comb for hair straightening in 1910. This guy was doing all kinds of stuff. He also invented a safety hood smoke protection device after seeing firefighters struggling from smoke that they encountered in the line of duty.
I was going to ask you that. When you called it a smoke hood, my first assumption was that he did develop this for fire departments. And it was the precursor to, I guess it looks like a gas mask, right?
Yeah, and this is one of the kind of as a sidebar. As I was reading this, and this one particular story, I've done a Cliff Notes version of. But this is, David McCullough, I love, who's one of our greatest historical writers here in the U.S. Garrett would be one of these, Morgan would be one of these people that you could write a real history of in terms of what he's done and what he's accomplished. And this one thing alone that he did would make a tremendous story just because of when you find out what happened. So he had found out that there was a number of people that were trapped in a water intake tunnel beneath Lake Erie. And so he had devised this device, which they were causing the hood mask, or the smoke hood, which became the gas mask. And so he used this moist sponge and a to filter out the smoke and cool air, and these hoses would run up to get air in, and for the intake. And so he fashioned this hood. It would protect your eyes and would bring in fresh air. He ended up going in this very heroic effort and rescued all these people that were trapped in this tunnel, and proved that this mask and this hood that would later become a gas mask would in fact had merit. None of it was ever reported. The press and everybody ignored it because he was black, and he was a black man. He was able to do this. So all of these departments, fire departments and other groups that had ordered these masks, refused to do it. They canceled orders and everything when they found out he was black.
Are you serious? This is real? This is like...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is 1914-ish, 1912, 1914-ish when this was all going on. So the newspapers refused to cover this because, he shows up. They said he was in his pajamas. He shows up with this hood, that would protect them, goes down, does this, heroic effort to save them. The papers didn't want to cover it. Nobody wanted to cover it. Nobody really wanted to acknowledge the fact that he did this. So he received a patent for the smoke hood in 1914 and then launched his company, the National Safety Device Company. And the way he was able to sell this invention is he also had some Native American blood in him. So he would hire a white actor that would take credit for inventing the item, because it would be believable. People would buy it from a white person, right? They're not going to buy it from him because he was black. So for demonstration purposes, he would sometimes he would adopt a disguise. He would call himself Big Chief Mason. And he would dress up like an Indian, and he would demonstrate this device. He would build this kind of teepee thing with this noxious fuel. They said he would burn tar and sulfur, formaldehyde, and manure in this enclosed tent. He would be dressed up like an Indian chief. He would go into this tent for 20 minutes and come out unharmed. So all these fire departments and everything would watch this and say, "Oh my God, this is a miracle." So that's how he would sell these masks, and which end up becoming the gas masks, and what these hoods were, which would later become a gas mask. So by World War I, this breathing device was refined, and it eventually would carry its own air supply, which was then the gas mask. So that's how it all came about. But what a crazy story about.
Well, a couple things. Prolific inventor. I love his tenacity. Others would be really, really hurt by that notion that a fire department is going to cancel their orders simply because they found out that the person who invented it and was marketing it was a black man.
Yep.
It sounds Well, here we are in 2021.
He eventually was awarded a lot of the
some kind of
the organizations, fire department organizations, whatever, eventually did recognize him. He said he knew it was all racially motivated.
But the amazing thing is that he not only did he somehow manage to process that and put it behind him, he comes up with some wacky idea for the dressing as an Indian, doing the TP, burning the stuff, demonstrating the product. It's you gotta, hey, Garrett Augustus Morgan Sr. And by the way, I love his name because I love Augustus in anybody's name. I just think it's it's
and then one final invention, the one he was most famous for, was the traffic light. After witnessing an accident on the roadways, so when the automobiles started coming, so there was cars, buggies, pedestrians, and everything, the light signals then were only stop and go, so there was no in between. So what would happen is
no caution.
There was no caution, so everyone would just either stop or go. So there was constantly accidents. So what he did is he devised this pole. It was initially just it was a T-shaped thing, and he had the caution or the middle light in the middle because he said it gave it time. But what it initially did is it would actually make all the traffic stop. So the middle light made everybody stop before the green light went for the other side to go, that it would not allow the collision.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting the patent for that in 1923, and that was sold to General Electric.
Brilliant.
So General Electric brought the patent from him.
Brilliant guy.
And then later on in life, he developed glaucoma and became blind. But one of his last inventions that he was working on until he died was the self-extinguishing cigarette, which used a small plastic pellet at the very end filled with water.
Oh my God! Like
filter.
It's a miniature bucket that puts a fire out, right?
So happy birthday, Garrett!
Very clever,
Garrett Morgan.
Very clever.
Yeah. So that's our business birthday this week.
Oh boy, I love him. And you know what? You don't need to have Black History Month to celebrate an amazing man and an amazing inventor, right? All the better that he's black and that we should be learning all about it. All right, so Shop Talk.
So what's our Shop Talk this week, Mr.
Okay, so Shop Talk this week is an article about Jeff Bezos and about Amazon. And basically the idea here is that Jeff Bezos has forbidden PowerPoint in meetings, preferring that you bring in a written 6-page document describing the idea. And the reason behind this is kind of simple. The theory is that, a person who's really good at presenting can sell an idea, even an idea that may not even be that great. And so this kind of levels the playing field. But more importantly, the feeling is that PowerPoint confuses things, data is lost, and basically it's just a prop for presenting stuff. So the Bezos model is if you're going to do an idea or a solo idea, you have to come in and it has to be 6 pages. The meeting begins. And everybody sits and reads this memo, and they absorb it, and then they discuss it. I have some interesting thoughts on this. They might not be that interesting, actually. But one, you and I have had so many mixed signals about presentations, about formats, about how much information someone's going to absorb. This kind of ran counter to that. Is that your thought as well?
You mean it was... My thought was initially that was an information overload.
Yeah.
I almost felt like I was sitting at an SAT, and if I was bored and it got in too much detail, would I tune it out?
Because you mean reading the 6-page document?
Yeah. So if you went into a meeting and say you were going to, I don't know, you were going to say you wanted to bring a new product online.
Mm-hmm.
And you were going to bring the new product online because it was going to address A, B, and C. And it was necessary because of X, Y, and Z. And it was going to solve, LMNOP, whatever. And then if the presenter wasn't good.
Oh, my God. You could sit there and want to fall asleep. It
needed to be sold. In some ways, I think the crutch of PowerPoint is helpful because it does move things along.
It distracts.
I understand the PowerPoint issues, but I felt this was...
Well, here's a quote that the famous graph and mathematician creator Edward Tufte said. He goes, "For serious presentations, it will be useful to replace PowerPoint slides with paper handouts showing words, numbers, data graphics, and images together. Handouts allow viewers to contextualize, compare, narrate, and recast evidence. In contrast, data-thin, forgetful displays tend to make audiences ignorant and passive. I actually don't agree with this. I think it's a combination of both. And if you have someone who is not interested, or they're not connecting the dots on that 6-page foldout, right, or that handout, they may actually react better to an image or a graph that builds itself, or something that makes a linkage with what's being talked about and what's being, what you're trying to absorb and make a decision about. So I think it's a combination of both. I think PowerPoint can be very sloppy, and you and I have sat through presentations where people literally throw up a file or a picture or a panel that is so dense, and they stand there and they face the screen, they read everything on it. That's not what it's meant for, right?
Yeah, you don't want to go up and read a slide. And that's where I was going to in this. So I've seen you brilliantly, the best presentations with PowerPoint, I think, and I've seen you brilliantly do this with clients, is just a picture. And there could just be a picture on the screen, and then the presenter tells a story. And then people do listen, because people want to hear a good story. And if you're a good presenter, and that's a danger, not everybody's a good presenter, and not everybody can tell a good story, because the story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and go somewhere and have a point. Yep. And that's a skill, and a lot of people can't do that. And so PowerPoint in some ways helps people guide themselves there. And so you're able to do that. Very few people are able to do that. So, but if you can get up and show a picture and tell a story, people will listen to you, and people will want to hear what you have to say and get the same thing across, I guess, than if you read it. But you're right. If you just had somebody go up there and read a slide, and all the information that's on that slide is no different than if you sat and read the information.
Exactly.
I don't know how it's different, but I think so many people are not good presenters, that whether they sit and read it or not is, if you're a bad presenter and you have to go in and sell something, sitting there and reading something for 6 minutes or 10 minutes is not going to help sell something, because they're still going to be a bad presenter when it comes time to discuss it, don't you think?
Totally agree. And you referenced how we as a business present. Tim and I have worked very, very hard to try to convey everything either through the visual or the spoken, but we always do leave clients with a very detailed plan of what we're doing. There are lots of words, words and numbers. But I agree with you. I think that what's missing in this article was this notion that story does count. And I know that when you present someone with 6 pages, they're going to read it and they'll have their own thoughts. Then they'll be able to address you, the presenter, and say, I read page 5 says this, whatever. But I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in where if you've handed something out, people will flip through it and they literally set it aside and they stare at you. They're waiting for you to either A, entertain them or educate them, or it's a combination of both, actually. And I think maybe because we're in marketing and advertising, the showmanship quality of selling the campaign and buying into the brand, I think that's part of it, right? And who knows what kind of Amazon meetings, they could have these really stale meetings about increasing pick time from order arrival to getting it on the conveyor belt. There could be all these technical things that may weigh into that. But it's a good discussion to have, because I think if you're in any position to present to a potential client or to a coworker or to your team, puzzle about it. Maybe there's parts that don't need to be on the PowerPoint that could be what we call the leave behind, or something that you could discuss after you do your main song and dance. But have you ever sat through a meeting without any visual? It's usually like budget meetings you would sit through without any of a visual aids, right?
Yeah, there were lots of, but you'd sit with an Excel spreadsheet or something, which could be even more painful. But I understand the philosophy here. It was very part of it. I thought was very culturally Japanese, in that many times there was a meeting before the meeting, so you would give as much information as possible before the meeting so that people could be educated as to what you were going to have the meeting about. Because so many meetings, it's like the old adage of, what was it, 50% of my money's wasted on advertising. I don't know which 50%. Yeah. And it's the same thing with meetings. So many people are over-meetinged. So much meeting time is just wasteful. So if you know that you're going in, what the meeting's about, it could cut through a lot of the clutter. I mean, it's the famous thing that happened at Subaru, where we gave all of the background data when we were going to ask for domestic partnership benefits to the Japanese leadership in Japan, and gave all of this detailed, which is what Bezos is saying here, all of this detail of why it was important to offer domestic partnership benefits. And then they were coming in to sit for the PowerPoint presentation with human resources, and walked in and sat down. And before we even started, first slide, this is about domestic. Yeah, this is about domestic partnership benefits. Yes, we had the same thing in Canada. Is that what this is about? Yes, it's okay. And left and said, they bought themselves an hour of time, and they were delighted. And so in that case, it worked perfectly because they read everything, understood everything that we were going to discuss. And in that case, it worked brilliantly and did exactly what Bezos said. There didn't need to be a meeting about that because everybody understood what the discussion was going to be about. So in that case, I get it.
Yeah, but I like your. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a construction noise going on. I like your notion that people knew what they were walking into beforehand. So the meeting served a very particular purpose.
Yeah.
The purpose of getting everybody on the same page. If you had questions about what we discussed earlier, etc., this is the place to do it, and we're going to have our final thoughts. But it's an interesting. I would say this is an exercise in selling something to a client or to a team. The 6-page thing might be just a wonderful thing to do as an internal exercise to get every point down you want to make. And whether you distribute that or use it as a document or a talking point remains to be seen. All right, we're going to wrap it up there, folks. So excellent business birthday. And this article, I think one day, Tim, we should get a job at Amazon just to see what goes on internally. I mean, I've heard from people who work at Google. It's like,
Well, the warehouses are hiring.
That would be interesting, too.
Could you work at a warehouse?
If you had to have a paycheck, I could do that, yeah.
I think you'd rise right to the top, but I don't know. Picker pack.
You are the best picker. Nash gets the $5 Apple gift card for packing the most boxes. I don't know how that works. All right, so hey, thanks for joining us. A big thanks to Deep Discount for being a partner of ours here on the Focus Group. FocusGroupRadio.com is the place to go for all our media and for the Deep Discount logo. Click on that and begin your shopping experience. It's a March site-wide sale. I picked The Rockford Files. Tim picked a John Hughes collection of 5 movies, the Hughes Collection. And the movie this week is called Zappa. It's a biopic about Frank Zappa. So we want to thank you for joining us. Check out Unbuttoned on Tuesdays. That's our podcast, complimentary to this. And be safe, mask up. We'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.